I should be more consistent with this stuff. I'm telling you, I'm really insecure behind the camera. But a lot of the things that are going on in the world, there is some machine or some group of people or cabal behind these things. And it's very evident when you look at it logically. How else could so many things in tandem globally be moving toward the same direction? Like, I remember a couple years ago, I was watching, I'm always on weird places on YouTube, but I was watching videos of Italian people complaining about migration from, like, you know, Northern Africa, and about how unfortunately it brought a lot of crime, and they were making claims that the migration, which involved boats of people, just unannounced, military-aged men landing on the shores of Italy while they were going through a financial crisis and just being overwhelmed with that. They were claiming that there was people behind it that had an agenda. Then you had people in Greece complaining about mass migration of third world people, usually with cultures that would not integrate or assimilate into this very society they were going to. It was mostly men. Then you had, and that was just a couple of years ago, and the same issue is going on today, whether it's in Britain, you know, there's migrations of people coming from third world countries, coming from Middle Eastern countries. Not that there's anything necessarily wrong with that, but a lot of these people were coming connected to criminal elements. Some of them were, a majority of them are fleeing, you know, whatever type of environment they're from, but they're connected to criminal elements, non-government organizations that are funneling these things, and they're coming over to these countries where their culture itself doesn't necessarily is antithetical to assimilation into the country they are fleeing to. And now you got, it's very obvious in the southern border, you have people coming not from Mexico, but from South American countries such as Argentina, Venezuela, and a lot of these people are men with connections to criminal activities in their home countries. And then you have people in those countries claiming that, like, for example, Argentina and Venezuela are encouraging criminals to flee their country for good reason, and to go to the United States, passing through Mexico and all of South America to get there. And our current government, our administration, is encouraging this. And now you have stories popping up of moped gangs in New York, which are roving bands of men on mopeds doing snatch and grab thievery, you know, snatching purses and stuff. And you have billions of dollars of funds being reappropriated to help. That was essentially going to, I guess, to the homeless, wherever the hell it was going to veterans, and being reappropriated to migrants. And then you got the divisive feelings and mix that comes of this for good reason. You know, everybody on both sides of this issue has, you know, good points to make on whether they're pro or against these things happening. But that's just one aspect of it. And then you move out to the bigger picture, you got this rampant, you cannot deny it. You cannot deny it. You have this rampant machine-like support of LGBTQ. They claim themselves to be a marginalized group fighting for equality, but you can't deny they have the support of billions of dollars from corporate funding, government initiatives, the full-blown support of the media, the full-blown support of the entertainment industry, politicians, even at the highest levels of academic institutions and the administrative offices that handle national education policies. And then you got people claiming that you got evidence coming up that there is I don't want to use the agenda word, but there's clear evidence that there's a concerted effort, whether it be through grassroots organizations in that LGBTQ space, or corporations, whether it be children's shows. Basically, they're targeting children, and it's just like, okay, that's one thing. Then you got billion, trillion-dollar finances moving from our tax dollars to fund wars in nations most people cannot even pronounce correctly. Endless wars with no clear objective. What is the objective? They claim that it's to keep, a country that we are against, so to speak, from getting power in a certain nation. But it's just like, you got these endless wars with money being signed off and approved against the public approval, and it's just being done, and that's being done on both sides of the political aisle, whether they were right politically or left politically. That's what they align on these issues. You got that. You got people noticing, which people have been noticing, that our food, the very food that we eat in the grocery stores, there's so much stuff to cover. Okay, you got inflation, or shrinkflation, what they're calling it, where you're paying the same for less food, but you're doing that, but simultaneously we're paying more for the same food, or we're paying more. But you got our food supply. A lot of the foods that we eat are poisonous. They contain preservatives and chemicals and substances and derivatives that are poisonous and carcinogenic, cause links to all kinds of health issues. And our food supply, what they allow in our food supply, is clearly different than what's allowed in other countries. So you got that thing going on. There's so many. It's bombarding you. It's like the point I'm getting at is that there's multifaceted things that all seem to centralize on the one goal. I know what the goal is, but I can't really articulate it. Oh, let me keep going. You got this push for technology such as augmented reality, VR, and MetaQuest, Oculus Quest, and Apple Vision Pro, and let's not to mention artificial intelligence, which became out of machine learning, and algorithms. And then you got all of these things that seem to, there's a push toward basically less of us living or experiencing physical reality and more into the digital space. And it's being pushed as trendy and cool and sexy, where it be wearable devices and smart homes. It's now like augmented reality goggles, less people interacting with each other socially. They're all on social media. I really feel like all of this stuff is somehow connected. You got climate initiatives where they want to reduce us eating red meat and using propane stoves and gas stoves and electric cars and moving away from fossil fuels into solar, wind, which is great. Nothing wrong with that. Not nuclear for some odd reason. But then I'm hearing that you have these subsidies that are being paid out toward utility customers who use state-run utilities, to where if you install these gadgets that will automatically regulate your thermostat or whatever, but then these gadgets have remote shutoffs during times of the electrical grid is overloaded, that they can remotely shut off your power or reduce your consumption or anything, So it's like slowly, like a frog in a pot, we're being nudged toward a future, in my opinion, that people have been writing about. They call it dystopian. And I may be butchering the definition, but it's basically a society where a totalitarian government is basically keeping control and surveillance over this populace for the express purpose of, for the sake of just having control over the populace. Then you got the media gaslighting us about the cost of things. The economy is doing good. The economy is doing good. While everybody can clearly see the economy is not doing good. Everything is expensive. Everything is went up. Rent. We're moving towards something that seems like there's some force, or there's some cabal, or everything is working in tandem with each other. So it seems to me, moving toward some goal, some shape of the future. And I'm like, who is behind this? Because it's happening everywhere at once, incrementally. Not that fast that it's happening overnight, but it's happening fast enough to where you notice it. And flying in the face of logic, things seem to be pushing toward something that really does not logically make sense as a common man, as you know, down here. But I'd imagine if you're part of some power structure, like we got AI robots, like, you know, you got a lot of brilliant scientists and engineers working, employed by billion-trillion-dollar corporations, working toward automated AI robots to replace physical labor, driving cars. It's like, okay, they want to get rid of the worker and replace you with a robot. Now, if you think about that type of society, at least it's clear to me, the thing is, life moves forward and it progresses. We went from horses, cars, now we're on jetpacks. We went from wire-frame airplanes to hypersonic jets. Things always seem to progress. What are we progressing toward? And in my opinion, this might sound crazy, I envision a future where there is no need for Joe Blow Smo, the burger flipping plumber, when you can just install an algorithm into a robot and he'll perform those functions for you. Imagine you have an entire feudal type, neo-feudalism 2.0, like you seen in medieval Europe, where you have a couple of very wealthy people who come from very wealthy families, and you know, they own vast swaths of land, and you got robots growing food and fixing things, and these people just live in leisure and comfort and do whatever, and there's no need for the rest of us. There's no need for secretaries, elevator repairmen. There's no need for truck drivers, mechanics. Hell, there's no need for doctors. If you could if robotics advances enough, you could train these things with the hundreds of years of human knowledge, natural language programming. You just give them a prompt, they'll learn how to perform a hysterectomy, or perform how to remove glaucoma, or perform how to do a appendectomy. You know, they can do open heart surgery. Can you imagine that? You wouldn't need the common man. You would just need a couple of highly specialized engineer, programmer types to maintain these. Hell, you could teach the robots to maintain themselves. You know, you wouldn't need everybody. And then boom, you could be some kind of like feudal land baron with your advanced robotic legion of men, workers, servants, you know, your serfs, working the land, and you're just sipping Monte Blanc Chardonnay 1879 from the balcony of your villa, which was built by the hands of robot labor. And you can read to your children stories of the past when you needed a team of 30 people to run something, and then your kids are like, really? They needed all these people to do that? But the question will never rise, what happened to all these people? They're even saying they want to reduce birth rates to help the environment. What happened? We're not giving birth to children, at least in the Western worlds, they claim, like we used to. What happens to all of these people when I guess that's the subject of this video. What happens to us when we're no longer needed by the haves of society? When the have-nots are no longer needed by the haves of society? What shall occur with such unfettered masses? What is their fate? What happens to them? Who will think of the children, of the dishwasher, on the Fifth Avenue, and who will think of the progeny and the lineage of the humble farmer? What happens to those people when they are no longer needed? Maybe a proposal, maybe a immodest proposal. I don't remember the name of the book, but you get where I'm going at. An absurd proposal. We should eat the babies. Anyways, I don't know, man. Like, it's a crazy world out here. I really don't know what to say, but I just notice things. And I don't speak up because I'm afraid I'll sound crazy. And a couple of years ago, that's what really kept me from speaking my mind, because everybody I speak to about these concerns, they'd look at me like I'm crazy. But it's understandable, because you got mouths to feed, you got to pay bills, you got to pay rent, mortgage, insurance. You cannot worry about issues that you are powerless to change. And I don't have all of those things really to worry about. So I have the luxury of thinking about things and having introspection. I'm not saying that people who work and take care of families can't do that. I'm pretty sure they're thinking the same things. But you can have introspection about stuff that you really are powerless to stop. I'm not a part of some elite family with lofty political ties and, anyways, I don't know. I know this channel is essentially dead. I haven't posted on it. I tell myself, like, hey, I want to, talk about these subjects in length on like a podcast, but now it's like oversaturated. Everybody got a podcast, but I don't know. I just noticed things. I'm really putting these videos out to like find like-minded people. I know I'm not the only one noticing things. Anyways, that's the Bitcoin Bandit. I'm out.